I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Ed Harcourt is an artist I've listened to since his debut album, Mercury Music Prize nominated Here Be Monsters, was released 24 years ago now. Since that time, he's released 11 more solo albums, writing and or producing for numerous artists, including Sophie Ellis-Bexter, Paloma Faith, and previous 10,000 Hours podcast guest, Hannah Rose-Platt, to name just a few. And he's also written and performed with the late, great Marianne Faithfull. Also, there's film soundtracks and guest appearances on other artists' albums in there too. Oh, and he formed a band called Loup GarouX and made an album with them as well. Today, though, we are going to focus on the new album, Orphic, an album which sees a lot more guitar and a lot less piano. Hi, Ed. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. Excited to have you here because I've been following your career since your first solo album, so it's been a long time.
Yeah, it really has.
Judging from your prolific output, both as a musician and producer, I assume you're not much of a procrastinator.
No. I don't really beat around the bush. To be honest, procrastination is one of those things that drives me insane, especially in other people as well, because I like to work very quickly. It's kind of like everything's based on gut instinct, really, and complete sort of impulsion. And that's just how I work on my own and with other people. And actually, it doesn't always reap rewards.
Do you think that makes it easier to be a solo artist?
Yeah, well, I think so. I think having also out of necessity and at school, total boredom, I was learning piano and doing classical music with the piano and learning theory, but then I kind of fell in love with all types of music and started picking up any instrument that I could, really. It was good because I think having that kind of, not attention deficit disorder, but a compulsion to be like, all right, I'm going to try and play the drums. I picked up the guitar and then now I'm playing it upside down and the bass guitar. And then suddenly I'm playing in bands, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like, it's just a sort of a total incentive, really. That put me in good stead to be a solo artist, just to be completely self-reliant.
So when I research for these interviews, I always find out a bunch of stuff I didn't know when preparing. And I didn't think there'd be much more I could find out about you. But I never realised that Graham Coxon played guitar on Visit from the Dead Dog.
He did, yeah. We went into Toe Rag Studios where the White Stripes made Elephant. Although Liam, the guy who worked on that record, he wasn't there. So we had a engineer, and we did two songs actually with Graham, one called Visit from the Dead Dog and one that's never been released called Pin the Donkey on the Needle. I'll never release it because I listened back to it and I thought it was utter crap, and it was like a protest song, but it just sounded so lame. When he did that, I couldn't believe it. It just came up with this beautiful, almost lounge guitar kind of part, like really makes the song, and also it was unexpected. I didn't expect him to do that, and it was just really cool. Like, he's so amazing.
So you've just finished a UK tour with Star Sailor. How was it?
I think it's probably one of my favourite tours I've ever done. And we just had such a laugh. And they're such good guys. We're all together on the bus on this splitter van travelling around the UK and just cracking jokes and telling stories. Most of them were sold out. Audiences were like, some of them were just amazing, like really attentive and listening. And, like most, a lot of tours, there were also nights where everyone was talking, but it didn't matter. I just played the songs and got on with it, really. I think it's quite akin to when I tour with the Afghan Wigs, who are also really good friends of mine, all traveling together. And then by the end, I'm coming on stage and playing with Star Sailor as well.
So how do you adjust to being a support artist? Because obviously you tour regularly headlining your own shows.
I feel like the perennial sort of bridesmaid, poor support guy. I get asked a lot to do these tours, and I will do it if it's financially viable. I mean, unfortunately, I just have to be quite mercenary about it these days. So, I can't really do a support tour unless I'm bringing home the bacon. So that's just how it works. I love sort of touring as long as it's kind of worth it. I just don't feel the need to kind of be trudging through the same old toilet circuit, that I did 30 years ago. I'd rather be in the wolf cabin cooking up something and experimenting and writing and just tootling about, really. In an ideal world for me, I think making my own records when I feel like it and doing film soundtracks is really something that I would just like to concentrate on. Not that I don't enjoy making other people's records. And one of the reasons why I wrote Orphic is because I got into January this year and I realized that all I'd been doing was making records for other people, and I hadn't written any songs for myself, really, not properly. So I felt like I kind of neglected my own music. That's why, I don't know, it just came out of nowhere in 3 weeks, and then suddenly the whole record was written.
Was it the first time you've made an album like that?
No, not at all. I made Back Into the Woods like that. I only had a month to write it. I recorded that in 8 hours on downtime in Abbey Road. So I came in at like 8 p.m. and we finished at 4 a.m. So it was kind of all live takes, just piano and guitar and voice, plus a couple of little overdubs. It was out of necessity, I work well with a deadline, actually. With Orphic, I gave myself a deadline. I just said, right, you've got until February to write this. It was also my way of sort of beating the January blues,
There's love, loss, and more in this album. Do you think the album was easy to write in a way because you've had so much going on in your life and there's so much going on in the world recently?
I think so, yeah. I think it had all got kind of stored up and it was suddenly waiting to be released. So I think it was all there kind of like deep within my psyche. And then it just literally just, I don't know, it's like a purge or something. It just flowed out so quickly. And you go into this flow state and then you can't stop. But then quite a weird thing, I sort of knew the order. I sort of almost wrote it in order as well. And I sort of knew how it was going to be, what the trajectory was going to be. It's very weird. And I think, the reason why I called it Orphic, well, there's a few different reasons. The film Orphic by Jean Cocteau, I'm obsessed with that film. It's just an amazing, incredible piece of work. And then also the album by Johan Johansson, Orphic, completely obsessed with that album. And he's got a song on there called Orphic Hymn. And then I kind of looked up the word Orphic, and it means beyond otherworldly understanding. And I feel like that can attribute itself to the process of songwriting in a way. It's just such a weird thing. Like, when you get that kind of that spark or that lightning bolt of inspiration, as something comes into your brain and you go, oh, and then that literal initial concept or that one word or that title, it just sparks off this total mad quiet frenzy, and you go, suddenly within an hour you've got a song. You just, where did that come from? I wasn't thinking about this 2 hours ago. So it's quite amazing.
After 12 albums, how conscious of you of trying not to repeat yourself?
Yeah, I am very conscious of that. And at the same time, sometimes I quite like it when I've written a song and it has a lyric in it that alludes to an older song. I think that's quite nice. It's like a little kind of spiderweb link to the past. The kind of nostalgic side of me quite enjoys that. I'm always thinking like, right, what am I going to do on this next record? I already know what I want to do on my next. I say that it could turn into something completely different, but I know it's going to take me a few years. And at the moment, we're just finishing the second Loup GarouX album. So that's being mixed. Literally, like, we're about like 3 mixes away from finishing. So it's really exciting. And that is like a completely different record to Orphic. I mean, it's so heavy in parts.
Is it in the same vein as the first Loup GarouX album?
It is, but it's just wilder and darker, heavier, bigger. It's taken 5 years to make. But I think it's really great. It's like 3 guys in their 40s, 50s enjoying their midlife crisis. So.
Is it your chance to be in a band again, really? Because obviously you had stuff way back. But
it is, but I think there's a reason why I am a solo artist. I don't really like being in a democracy, to be honest.
So this album is out on vinyl, digitally, and kit album. That's some Japanese thing, right?
It's actually from South Korea, Seoul. So basically, part of my management, they actually represent Kit Better, it's called, in America. And they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was up for trying a different format. It's really cool. It comes in this little box and you install the free app on your phone, and then you connect the box and it clicks onto your phone and it uploads. And then when you play it, there's this little record player thing. And it also shows all the videos, all the lyrics, everything like that. And it's high resolution. You own the album, but then it kind of like, you have to keep doing it. It kind of only lasts 24 hours. And it comes with like all the little cards and the biog as well within the box. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to kind of create some kind of physical collector's item that alludes to that is part of that.
So if push came to shove, what's your favourite track on the album?
That is very, very difficult.
Pick your favourite child.
I mean, I'd probably say the opening track, really. It's kind of about my wife. I just love the kind of the sprawling, dreamy element of it. And I'm sort of singing in a different way. I like that one.
I've already commented on your socials. Mine's Baby's Gone to Seed, because I love the discordant piano ending. Things like that just finish a track perfectly for me.
Yeah, I was trying to do a kind of Lee Hazelwood, Johnny Cash thing at the end, like a spoken word, Tom Waits kind of thing. But that song, yeah, I'm sure people know what that song's about. It's sort of, Baby is basically America, you know. I feel like, you know, these sort of they remind me of Caligula and Nero and all those Roman dictators, emperors, and, you know, such a weird situation we find ourselves in. The protagonist at the end of the song, you know, he's just kind of like, well, I guess everything's gone to shit. So I'm just going to sit here in my rocking chair drinking whiskey and let the world just kind of burn itself to the ground. Yeah, there's kind of like a bit of a fatalism. You know, there's a bit of nonchalant sort of nihilism there. And it's interesting that you chose that one. It's like the drunken uncle of the album, I think.
That's probably the tracks I tend to find on your album. Yeah.
But I think, yeah, a lot of the record, you know, touches on some people that I've lost, people that I didn't know as well. Like In the Embers of a Dying Flame, initially it was going to be called In the Embers of Dying Flame and in brackets for David Lynch. So that was a tribute to David Lynch. And then Marianne made her way into the Low Spirits. And then A Ghost Walked Through Me is about Dave Rosso, who was my friend in the Afghan Wigs, who died of cancer in 2017. I don't know if you know the story behind that song.
No.
Dave died in late July 2017, and we were in contact, you know, 4 days before he died. I wrote a song for him and sent it to him. And then I was on tour a month later with the Afghan Wigs, and we played a festival in Belgium. And it was a very rainy day, and the clouds, you know, it was overcast and drizzling, and we're out on stage, and I was playing a bit of guitar with the Wigs on a song, and we're doing this sort of ambient intro to this song, and Greg kind of said, I'd like to dedicate this song, you know, to our brother Dave Rosso, who passed a month ago. And as he said it, the clouds just kind of parted and the sun came out and sort of shone on us, and we were like, what the hell? And then a year later, I was on tour with them again in America, and Dave had lived in New Orleans a lot of his life. So we played in New Orleans, and I spent some time there. And after the show, I met all of Dave's friends backstage, and it was quite emotional. And we were like hugging and hanging out. You know, it's quite sort of heavy, but, you know, lovely to see them all. And I met this British guy, Alex, who's Dave's sort of best friend, and was on his deathbed when he died, like holding his hand and reading to him. And 2 years later, when we were first sort of able to go out to get supplies, I drove to my local town in Oxfordshire to get food and drink and stuff. And I was driving back, and it's this country lane called Rycote Lane that goes up, and then you turn left and you drive down the hill to my village. And it's a very small lane, but a lot of lorries go down that lane really quickly, too fast. And I'm driving up the lane, and on the left, I see this car with its blinkers on. I'm like, oh, what's going on there? And then as I get closer, I noticed the whole car, the side on the driver's side, had been opened up like a can opener. And there was this woman in her sort of late 60s standing there, kind of looking very shaken and distressed. And I thought, well, you know, I better stop to help her. So I drove up behind her, and I was like, are you okay? And she was like, well, this lorry came by and it went too fast. And the back of the container on the axle, it swiveled as it went around the corner, and it opened up the car. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, you're lucky to be alive. And, you know, let's get you to a garage. And luckily there was a garage repair shop literally 100 yards up the road. So we called the police, called the insurance, sorted that out, and then left the car. And then I drove her back to her house, you know, and made sure she was okay, because, you know, it's quite traumatic. So then we swapped numbers, and then I went home, and kind of, I was like, wow, you know, what a mad experience. She was kind of like, you know, no one was stopping. She'd been there for a while. So I was the only person who kind of stopped. And that evening I get a text from her and saying, oh, you know, my son. And turns out that her son was Alex, who was with Dave Rosso and was holding his hand when he died.
Small world.
Very, you know, by chance, very serendipitous, but it just made my sort of hair stand on end. There was these little things to do with Dave that just happened. And anyway, so I wrote A Ghost Walked Through Me, but it stayed with me. I didn't write that song until like 4 years later. It was a very weird thing that happened, and a very Dave Rosso thing to happen. You know, I call them Rosserisms, you know.
Social media. You actually And this isn't an age jibe because I'm only a couple of years younger than me and I struggle, but you seem quite comfortable with social media, which contrasts most artists your age. Do you find it easy or do you have to force yourself to post?
I just do it because, a lot of the time it's on tour. So it's something to do. You're just sitting around, you're traveling. And so I'll just do a post. And I always do a post about the gig. And I do respond to people. And I respond to people if they're also negative. Because it can be, someone just decides to kind of go, yeah, I'm going to say that. Huh, that showed him. It happens rarely. It also is quite weird, social media. It's kind of, people act differently. They think, oh, yeah, I'm just going to post this because I think, yeah, it really showed them work. I'm, going to go against the grain and be contrary. And people trolling, it's quite weird.
You did a special Live from the Wolf Cabin solo show during COVID for Here Be Monsters' 20th anniversary. It's the 25th next year. Have you got anything planned?
Yeah, 25 years of Here Be Monsters. That's mad. Maybe I should do one of those kind of legacy tours, where we play the whole album with a band.
You really seem to enjoy being on stage. Is that something you've always had or something that you had to work on? Because obviously you started as a bass player in Snug for the world to see, and then you became a frontman.
I was just very nervous when I started. I had like massive stage fright, and it's all like total bravado. It's almost like I feel like I'm going into battle, but I'm not going to try and kill the audience. It's more like I have to put up this defense mechanism. I quite like being, on my own and just left to my own devices. And I think, so when I'm around those people, I think I tend to show off. I'm very sort of extroverted, but I don't think I'm actually like that. I think it's more like an act. It's a smokescreen, like an introverted extrovert or something. When I used to have to play on my own, I used to drink really heavily just to kind of calm my nerves. And sometimes it didn't go as well as planned, because I'd be like too drunk, and I couldn't remember the lyrics. And now I have a process that's great. I have maybe like half a red wine or like half a beer, and then I have a shot of tequila, and that is it. Just before I go on stage, been doing that for like 5 years. I have one shot of tequila, and then bam, on stage, and it just gives you this little like kind of boost. I might have the odd beer during the gig, but yeah, it's very different now, and it really, really makes a huge difference. One of the worst shows I ever did was, I think it was Portsmouth Wedgwood Rooms, and I had like 2 bowls of red before I went on stage, and it was an absolute catastrophe, like disaster. I think half the audience walked out, and the other half said it was one of the best car crashes they've ever seen. Not my finest hour.
I think we've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah, well, that's nice. I'm glad that you said that. Wouldn't want to be the only one. I've definitely like messed up a few things throughout my career just by being just off my head. I think I got it out of my system. And now we have an idyllic life living in this village, in this beautiful old cottage. And I built this studio, and it's like a log cabin, basically.
Is there going to be, you sort of touched on this, are you already planning a headline tour to accompany the album, or what's going on there?
No, we haven't got anything planned. I need to lock horns with my management and work out what we're going to do. Because I've done quite a lot of touring in the last few months. So I sort of did 3 shows in Scandinavia, and then a little UK tour, solo tour, and then I did the Star Sailor tour. So I've been on tour for on and off for the last 3-4 months. But I think, I'll probably have January, February off. But I am working on this film, so I might have to like be on set on the film, which is like overseas. But yeah, I am hoping to kind of do some kind of tour. I just don't know how. But it would be great to kind of like have a rhythm section at least.
You've got to get back to Helsinki as well.
I would love to come back to Helsinki. I think every time I play to Helsinki, it's always the Tavastia.
Yeah.
I think I've played there about like 6 times now. Amazing. I love the Finns. They're always an amazing audience, and just quite off the wall as well.
What music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
Well, I've been trying to listen to Geese, that band, Geese. I just keep veering between, I'm not sure about this, and then being like, this is fantastic. I literally cannot make my mind up. It's doing my head in. I think I need to see him live. Apparently he's incredible live. My sister-in-law did all the strings on the new Lily Allen album, which I've been quite enjoying.
Nice.
And then just kind of going back through like old stuff that I love. I mean, it's literally, if I look at my playlist, everything from like, Curtis Mayfield to Fugazi, And then this morning I was listening to Johan Johansson and Miles Davis. you know.
That's a good start to the day.
Yeah, it was a good start to the day, actually. I kind of made a fire in we've got a Rayburn in the kitchen. I made a fire as the kids were coming down and made some coffee and put on like Kind of Blue, kind of set up the day quite well. I have a jukebox in the kitchen that plays 45. So yesterday I put in White Christmas by Otis Redding.
It's that time of year again.
Seasonal. And then I also installed Such a Night by Dr. John, which I found in a record shop in Glasgow. So that was quite nice. There's a single out this week by a singer called JJ Lovegrove that I've produced and mixed in here, the Wolf Cabin. And then a guy called Alex Carsons from Norwich. I've been doing some of his stuff. He's brilliant. He's got this kind of like Harry Nilsson meets sort of Mercury Rev, Radiohead thing going on. He's really great, really cool songs. And then probably going to hopefully do the next Hannah album.
Yeah, Hannah's lovely. Really enjoyed chatting with her, and her songs have got. I love the way she writes a biography with every song. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's an incredible lyric writer, as is Catherine Williams, who has a new album out called Mystery Park, which I played on. And then mixing this guy called Cy Noble, who lives in Ireland. He's sort of released a few singles, and that's beautiful. It's very sort of lush, pastoral. It's got quite a 60s vibe to some of the songs, like the Hollies, you know, a little bit. And then this German duo called Circle Sky, just doing their music, which has got a bit of a crowded house feel about it. So they came over. And then next week I'm mixing my Swedish friend, Lars, who's actually like my promoter in Sweden, but he came over with his band and recorded for like 3 days, and we did like an EP. It was really fun. I took them to one of my local pubs and they couldn't believe how cool it was. They loved it. You know, open fire, dogs roaming around, old guys at the bar, you know, the most English thing ever. They loved it. One of Lars's songs actually made me sort of laugh, but also feel melancholy. And it was a song about a bird. It was an article that he read on the plane. And it's just like one bird that lives on an island. It's like the loneliest bird in the world. It just lives on its own. I think his name was Nigel, the name of the bird.
I could happily do that, I think.
I know, yeah, desert island bird, exactly.
So for anyone wishing to find out more about you and your music, your website is edharcourtmusic.com, and you're on Instagram, Facebook, and Bandcamp. You've got an awful lot on Bandcamp that isn't available anywhere else as well, haven't you? Yeah,
a few things. I've got the Lucid Red EP that I did as well for this sort of classical crossover label. I'm going to do another one of those, I think, probably in January. But yeah, like I just sometimes just put stuff up there just for fun, you know. I've also got a Patreon. Which,
I was just about to mention that, yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a Patreon, which I'm not on it all the time, but when I am on it, you know, it's kind of pretty cool. And I do a gig every month or something. Sometimes I put up like unreleased tracks, and I might do like the odd performance video and things like that. But if you sign up, people who sign up for like $15, I usually find out what their favorite song is, and then I typewrite it out on an old typewriter and sign it and send it to them as a sort of welcoming gift. Orphic by Ed Harcourt is out now on Deathless Recordings, on vinyl and kit album, via your website mainly, isn't it? Yes, there is an online store through Townsend Music as well. And actually, I'm going to put up all the Orphic t-shirts on there soon. So yeah, I've still got some of the vinyl left, the limited edition. I'll probably be keeping those for the next tour and selling them. So they'll be very limited edition in a few months, I reckon. Excellent. Ed, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are at the moment. Oh, no, my pleasure. Much appreciated. Thank you. My pleasure, man. Enjoy Helsinki.